Hello again. In this lecture, we are gonna talk about password brute forcing. In a normal paid assessment, we usually don't really do brute forcing, but we want to find out whether it's a feasible attack or not. The reason is that in an assessment project, you usually have limited time, so it doesn't make sense to waste your time with stuff which doesn't really benefit you. For instance, you already have the credentials for the applications, then you don't really need to crack the login to get access to the applications. So you don't really have to do the whole brute forcing. However, you have to figure out whether it's possible or not. Because if it's technologically possible, then the attacker can spend 2 days or even 2 months brute forcing the application. So in this lecture, we want to find out whether such an attack would work against Voice of the Emperor. So let's go to the application. Let's record a login request. The password doesn't have to be correct. And then go to burp. Go to the proxy history, and here is the login. And send this login request to the intruder. With the intruder, we can test various positions in the request. Now we want to test the password, and we can specify a payload. So if it's a pro version, then you have built-in lists, but we're using the free, so we have to use another word list. But luckily, Kali has a bunch of word lists available under user share word list. This raw queue is actually dumped from a real hack, and it contains millions of passwords. That's why it's also compressed, because it's a pretty huge database. We are just going to use the default from Nmap, and I will also only use the first couple. So I will just take some. I will tell you in shortly why that is. So copy, and then come to burp, and here say paste. So we choose one position to test with 76 elements, and I will just add the real password at the end. Long live the emperor. Because what we want to figure out is that if you're brute forcing the password, when the real password comes after 70 something tries, whether it would be still successful or not. So before we start the scan, we have to somehow make sure that we will actually see which one was the real password. So for that, go to options, and we are going to set a grep match rule. That's basically, we can automatically search in the responses and mark requests which have a specific thing in the response. The only thing what we know is that if the login is successful, so the password was the real one, then the redirect will go to admin/panel. So basically, if the response has panel in it, then that's the real password. Make sure that you uncheck this exclude HTTP headers, because this is going to be in the headers. Now, let's start the attack. You get this warning because the free burp doesn't support full speed for the intruder. That's why I only choose 70 something passwords to test. In the full version burp, the intruder is much more faster, but don't forget that this is not a fuzzing tool. We are only making a proof of concept to show that such an attack works. All right, let's start. Now you can see here, as each password in the password list is tested, the status code, length, and here will be marked if we find the real password. Alright, it's finished finally. So we have all the 77 requests here in the results. So what we are interested in, where this grep and match requirement will match, because that's going to be the real password. So let's scroll down and see whether any of them was successful. And of course, as expected, the last one, which is the known password, was matched to the panel because it has in the response panel, and that's how we figured out this is the real password. Of course, as I said, this is only a proof of concept, but basically this means that we can send 70 requests to the server, and if we send the real password, then it will be still successful. There is no brute force protection implemented in the application, and basically if we can send 70 requests, then we can also send 7,000 or 70,000. It doesn't really matter from this point of view. So you can put this in your report that it is possible to fuzz the password. So let's quickly talk about mitigations. The application should enforce strong password. That's very important. The application could log down for some time after a few login attempts. Like after 5 login attempts, it doesn't allow that user to try to log in for 10 minutes or something. Or after a few failed logins, the application could include a CAPTCHA in the login form to make sure that it's a real human and not a script fuzzing the application. Also, the application could always increase the response delay after each unsuccessful login. And by that, after like 20 or 50 requests, the delay could be so big that it will be unfeasible to really do brute forcing. As I said, Burp Suite is not a brute forcing tool because it doesn't do manipulation and permutations on the given word list. But there are other tools you can try. For instance, on Burp, there is the wfuzz, which is a web brute forcer. So as an exercise, you could try to use wfuzz to fuzz the Voice of the Emperor application. So good luck with that, and I will see you in the next lecture. Bye.